The world of anime has given us fantastic shows over the years. We've been lucky to witness the rise and fall of many great heroes and villains. And the best part is, we're going to continue seeing such awesomeness for a long time. In this episode, we've decided to give you a quick go-through of some of the most amazing shows that left a permanent mark in our memories. Each decade, starting from the 60s until today, has given us a single gem above all others. A gem of a show that has everything from character development and drama to crazy stylish fighting scenes. Let's begin and see what these shows are. The 60s, Tiger Mask. Many great Japanese anime shows were birthed during the 60s, but one anime stands out above the rest that captures the feeling, style, and atmosphere of the 60s really well. Tiger Mask tells the story of Naoto Date, one of the most vicious wrestlers to ever grace a ring in America. Throughout his wrestling career, Naoto was known for being a villainous wrestler who beats his opponents to a pulp and ridicules them. On a trip back to Japan, the feared Naoto decides to become a face, meaning a good guy in the ring. The change is brought on when his emotions are awakened by a young boy who aspires to be as vicious as the Tiger Mask is when he grows up. The story is centered about Naoto's inner demons, the opponents he faced in the ring, and his mission to bring down the Tiger's Den, a mysterious shadow organization that trains young wrestlers in exchange for half of the earnings they get as professionals. The show is special because it gives us a realistic look of how real-life wrestling happens. There's also a crazy focus on martial arts and the amount of training that each character goes through to become strong, which adds the suspense that happens when they enter the ring. In fact, it wouldn't be wrong to say that Tiger Mask is one of the most realistic depictions of how wrestling and martial arts work in real life. If you want to feel nostalgic about old animes and don't know where to start, Tiger Mask is an excellent choice to fill that void. The 70s, Arabian Nights, Sinbad's Adventure. Next up on our list is a show that a lot of people might not be familiar with. It's Sinbad's Adventure, an anime that takes inspiration from the Arabian Nights to bring us some very memorable characters that we grew up watching. Sinbad recounts the story of a young boy and the son of a famous merchant from Baghdad. Sinbad is fortunate to have the support of his uncle Ali and his bird friend Shira. The adventure lasts for 52 episodes, but boy do we wish it lasted more. The real plot begins when Sinbad's parents go missing with no clue on how to find them. Sinbad's first instinct is to think of foul magic and an evil sorcerer who made that happen. To get to the bottom of this mystery, we see Sinbad traveling with his friends throughout the magical lands of the Arabian Nights, and along the way, many memorable characters are brought to life, some of them with their special antiques like the Lilliputians, who always makes us laugh with their weird shapes and designs. The list also includes gigantic snakes, mermaids, a giant bird, Aladdin, and of course genies. It really is amazing how the show manages to bring together a wide cast of characters and introduce us to them in new and exciting episodes. We think that you'll never be bored watching this classic adventure. Even if the animation is not exactly top-notch, it deserves its place as the best anime of the 70s because it was so far ahead of its time in terms of both character ideas and the unique settings it portrayed. The 80s, Dragon Ball Z. This list would never be complete without the mention of the godfather of all shonen anime. Dragon Ball Z continues to live on in the minds of current and past generations as one of the most best collection of fights and character development in history. The show starts off with Goku much older than he was when he still had his tail, with all of his childhood friends and former enemies by his side. Soon, Goku's strength as a fighter is put to the test when the self-proclaimed brother of the Saiyan Kakarot arrives on Earth to take Goku back with him. This single fight between Raditz and Goku would set down the stage for the most exciting cascade of events ever witnessed, and the rest is history. Goku becomes stronger with each passing season. Battling the evil Freeze and transforming into a Super Saiyan for the first time was just one highlight among many. The other seasons would see Goku square off against some of the mightiest villains ever. The show continues to impress with the amount of crazy good content it presents, in the form of villains such as Cell, the green monstrosity from the future, and Boo, the reincarnation of the devils in the show's mythology, and the accompanying Super Saiyan transformations that left us all in awe when we first saw them. Of course, there's also Vegeta, who starts off as the main antagonist but slowly grows to become Goku's strongest ally. Although we're sad that the Prince of All Saiyans never had a real victory in the show's history, he's still the show's second hero and a fan favorite for many. All in all, if you have never watched Dragon Ball Z, now is the time to do it. It's a life-changing experience for any anime fan. The 90s Digimon Adventure. A worthy candidate for the best show of the 90s, Digimon has had its ups and downs after its first season. However, it's worth watching just the first season to understand how iconic the show is for many people. The story sees the transportation of 7 children into the world of Digimon through Digi-Device that they had in the real world. The 7 characters include Taichi, Yamato, Sora, Izumi, Mimi, Joe, and Takiro. All children come equipped with the power of calling Digimons through their Digi-Devices. The adventure story in the first season sees our heroes struggling to survive, grow, and maintain the bonds of friendship. It's a touching story when you think about what each individual character went through. The island that they find themselves on is full of monsters and dark masters waiting for the children to corrupt them. As far as the theme of the story goes, the later seasons would reveal that the dark masters want the digital and real world to fuse into one. That way, monsters can rule over both worlds through the commands of the Dark Masters. We see a ton of cool Digimons throughout the show, and every one of these friendly faces can gain extra powers to help their Digimon masters. If you are a fan of long-arching stories, Digimon is right for you. It's a show that exemplifies many of the lovely features that we've come to enjoy in anime shows such as friendship, strong battles, and deep story. The 20s Death Note. Another very strong show with a huge amount of popularity behind it. We've had to go through so many amazing shows to decide on what the 20s were all about. Bleach, Naruto, and One Piece are all fan favorites, and we understand why people would be disappointed not to see them. However, the Death Note earns its place here due to its short running time, which is a total of 37 episodes, and the great story it tells in that short time. On an unassuming day in Tokyo, high school student Light Yagami is shown to be bored with everything around him. He's a super intelligent student, gifted with everything that you might expect to find in a prodigy. Light is immediately shown to have a deep sense of justice, as we see him utter some of the first words in the show about the world being rotten. In a parallel world, a wasteland inhabited by unknown entities known as Shinigamis, Lords of Death, is shown with all its gory details just before we get back to Light again. The first episode shows us a book being dropped from the Shinigami world into the human world. And this is where the story starts. Light stumbles upon the black book and finds the words Death Note written on it. At first, we're just as dumbfounded as Light is, because how can a book exactly cause someone to die? The promises in the book turn out to be real, when Light writes down the name of someone threatening a woman near a shop. The notebook is shown to kill people within a minute of writing their names, and their method of death can also be decided. This throws Light into a moral dilemma. Does he take matters into his own hands and inflict justice on the wicked? Or does he simply throw away ownership of the notebook and continues his average life? Shinigami owner Ryuk is always there to offer words of wisdom or doom, depending on how you see it. To Light, the Shinigami only explains that Light now has the book in his hands, and that bad luck comes to those who continue using it. Light finally decides that he can become the god that this world has never had, and we finally see the birth of Kira, the harbinger of justice. Like any great story, the protagonist is going to face obstacles. Light's biggest one is in the form of L, the world's best detective and the man who immediately surpasses Light's mental abilities by showing exactly where the person known as Kira might be. This leads us to some of the best TV moments in anime, as the duel between the two geniuses reaches a startling climax when Kira finally gets the better of L and kills him by writing down his name in the Death Note. The show's themes are those that discuss morality and the idea of good and evil and how relative these concepts are, depending on who you ask. That encompasses what the first 25 episodes are about. The remaining 12, although amazing as well, see a marked drop in quality because Light has simply become an arrogant villain, with no one to oppose him until his final demise. The show is a must-watch for any die-hard anime fan, that is for certain. The 2010s Attack on Titans. The previous decade was another great landmark in the history of anime. Not only did we see the rising popularity of anime shows all over the world, but we also got the chance to witness some amazing stories animated from its manga source right before our eyes. The best one to come out of that decade is none other than Attack on Titans. The legendary anime has surpassed all expectations over the course of its 4 seasons. The show has stayed true to the source material in nearly everything. The story is basically about the remnants of humanity hiding behind great walls on a place called Paradise Island, a place cut off from any other geographic location. We are told that humans living behind the walls are the last remaining ones in the past 100 years. At first, the walls serve to protect the surviving populace from mysterious hulking humanoid creatures called Titans, whose sole purpose is to eat humans. We see just how dark the story is right from the get-go, as the protagonist, Eren Yeager, is still a child when his mother is eaten by Titans who attack the city he lives in. Humanity loses ground to the Titans when this major city called Wall Maria is breached, and we get to see the desperate measures humanity must take to survive. The story shows us how humans have managed to fight off the ravenous Titans by employing a high-speed maneuvering gear to slash Titans around their necks to dispose of them. Attack on Titans gives us an impressive level of character development, as we get to know Eren, Mikasa, Armin, Levi, and many other fan favorites on a deep level and see their exploits firsthand. The battle scenes are also some of the best animated ones in anime history. We get to see humans transforming into Titans, friends dying horribly, moral lessons about genocide, and a story of freedom unravel. Attack on Titans never disappoints on any level. As we near the story's end, we finally understand Eren's motivation to avenge the people of the island, and how humans can be a sick bunch when they want to fight over petty issues. The last part of the 4th season is set to air somewhere in 2023, and we can't be more excited about how the show is going to end. The 2022's Jujutsu Kaisen. Although a bit early to be discussing the current decade, there are already some pretty strong competitors who might be considered for the title of best show in this decade. Among them is none other than Jujutsu Kaisen, animated by MAPPA and delivered us in a fantastic quality. Jujutsu Kaisen is one of the best shonens that we have seen. Features a rich cast of characters and an army of evil curses hell-bent on destroying humanity. Jujutsu Kaisen pulls no punches when it comes to showing the epic battles that these two sides give us. The story focuses on Yuji Itadori, a 16-year-old young man with hopes and dreams of doing good in the world he lives in. Yuji is one day forced to become a hero when he decides to interfere in some business that ends with him meeting a tall man with blindfolds over his eyes, called Gojo Saroro, with Yuji finding himself in a hopeless battle against what he perceives as an inhuman creature. He swallows a strange finger that the monster was after. This kickstarts the show's main story, with Yuji now harboring within him the strongest curse in history, Sukuna. The story then introduces us to the Academy of the Jujutsu Sorcerers, special humans with the ability to call forth powers from their souls. Their job is to fight off the evil curses that want to swallow humanity and take over the world. The show's focus in the 1st season centers around Yuji discovering his powers, racing against time to collect all 20 fingers that Sukuna needs for his vessel to be restored, and Gojo Saroro giving guidance and being super cool in every episode he appears in. The show is also known for its awesomeness female cast who partake in the story just as much as their male counterparts. In fact, we wouldn't be the only ones to say that Nobara is one of our favorite characters in the show. With the 2nd season already in the making, we are very excited about the next arc in the story and the wonderful character development that we're going to witness. If you are a fan of shonen shows, you'll be missing out if you don't give Jujutsu Kaisen a watch. Our trip down memory lane ends here. This was a lot of fun for us, and we hope you enjoyed what our list discussed in terms of what the best shows in each decade are. We want to hear your opinion now about what you think the best anime shows of its respective decade is.